Today, Mavic Air 2 Things You Need to Know, Part 2. Let's get to it. Hey guys, Felix here with Quadcopterguide, and on this channel I help you get the most out of your drones and other filmmaking gear. Today we're talking Part 2 of my Things You Need to Know for the Mavic Air 2, or about the Mavic Air 2 series. Also, if you haven't seen it, I did a super in-depth, hands-on review of the Mavic Air 2. You can check that out up here. Part 1 of the series of things you need to know about the Mavic Air 2, you can also check out either linked in the description below or in the info card up here in the corner. Last night I was getting ready to make this video and I'd fired up the Mavic Air 2 and look at that, a firmware update. Version 206 was available for me to download. I went to the DJI website to look at the release notes. At the time of this recording at least, still not there. So that's kind of interesting. There wasn't a release notes in the app, but I downloaded it anyways, hey, what the heck. And I used the current version of the Fly app, which I believe is 1.1.2. And look at that. Quick shots in 2.7K and in 4K. I know this was a huge kind of discussion point also in the comments of the previous video, but also of the original review. And so now with version 206, we get quick shots in 4K. Now, of course, Asteroid, which is kind of the quick shot where the drone flies away from you and then you get the, kind of the mini world, the mini-me world, whatever you want to call it, with the globe. That is only available in 1080p because for that it has the drone processes on the drone in the air how to make that world shape and everything, and it just doesn't have the power to do 2.7K or 4K in flight. Now, I guess that's kind of an interesting point. It would be cool to get the option to do 4K of that with like your computer, but getting ahead of myself. Just know that the quick shots are available in 4K, so that's great. That's something that people have been asking for. And so you can see that DJI is cranking out firmware updates one after the other, which is good because there's still a couple things we're waiting on. All right, what's next? Somebody else asked about Waypoints 2.0. Now, if you aren't familiar with this, this is on the Mavic 2 Pro and Mavic 2 Zoom. You can, ahead of time, pick out waypoints, tell the drone what kind of motion you want it to do, when to start recording, when to stop recording. You can use this to kind of fly up and down solar panel fields, for example, for a job. You can set it all up ahead of time, and then let's say you have a contract that tells you, hey, you have to do this every month. You go to the site, hit start, and the drone just kind of flies that area for you, and you can repeat it easily every month. This is Waypoints 2.0. Now, on the Mavic Air 2, we don't have that available, and I don't want to say don't have it available yet. I don't see that coming to the Mavic Air 2 just because there are certain features which DJI wants to keep at the high-end drones, which of course the Mavic 2 Pro belongs to. So I don't expect that coming. So if that's something that you have to have, then look at the Mavic 2 Pro. Further on, people are still interested about the DJI goggles. Now this could be the white DJI goggles or the DJI goggles RE, which is the racing edition with the analog receiver built in, or even the DJI FPV goggles. But it doesn't matter which goggles you have or want to buy, the Mavic Air 2 is not compatible with any of them. On the frequently asked questions for the Mavic Air 2, which you can also check out with a link in the description below, it says that the goggles are not supported. The goggles I don't expect to be compatible with the Mavic Air 2. I guess I could see a firmware update in the future. The Mavic 2 Pro has OcuSync 2.0 and the goggles work with that. I checked the documentation and those are supposed to work together. So I guess technically there isn't a technical reason for them not to work, unless the OcuSync 2.0 in the Mavic Air 2 is a slight different flavor of OcuSync 2.0 of the Mavic 2 Pro. If that is the reason, then I could see that maybe there's a hardware chip or something in the goggles that isn't compatible. If that's the case, then of course we're not going to see it. If that's not the case, then it's just a matter of, does DJI want to put that out for the Mavic Air 2 in this price segment? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not DJI. But I can forward that to my contact if you guys want to, and I can see what they say. Maybe recommend it as a feature. Another funny comment was if I can adjust the adjustment of the adjusting adjuster on the Mavic Air 2. And the answer to that is maybe. Further on, I was asked what gesture or gesture modes are available on the Mavic Air 2. With the original Mavic Air, if you remember, and with the Spark also, you can use your hand as a gesture and move the drone around. You can make it go further back, closer to you, higher. And some people in the comments of my main review video even said that sometimes on the original Mavic Air, this is the only control method that they use. So they either leave the remote at home or in the backpack, and when they're out and about hiking or whatever, they want to get a sweet selfie on the mountain peak or whatever, they bust out the Mavic Air, fire it up in gesture mode and kind of position it and have it do the picture thing. Now that kind of freaks me out, just because, I mean, I guess in the middle of nowhere you don't have any interference, but I am a big fan of having a link between a remote controller and the aircraft, whatever you're flying. But the moral of the story is that any kind of gesture mode on the Mavic Air 2 is currently not supported. I don't know if we're going to get that in the future. I could assume that when DJI was looking at the feature set, and it's a Vespa or moped, when DJI looked at what kind of features they want to put into the Mavic Air, maybe they asked specific users or beta testers what kind of features were important to them. Maybe that just didn't make the cut. So no gesture modes on the Mavic Air 2. Another great question on the Mavic Air 2 in the comments was, is there a portrait mode available? On the original Mavic Pro, if you remember, the camera is a kind of perfect circle. And so it was kind of easy to rotate it to the side to have the sensor not horizontal but vertical, and do a portrait vertical photograph. Now on the Mavic Air 2 you can do a vertical panorama, which I suppose is kind of the same thing, but of course if you're trying to capture anything with action in a portrait mode, that's not going to work, because for the vertical panorama it does one picture after another. And here's a great example of a vertical panorama from my main review. So if you're trying to capture action, the panorama doesn't really work out, because like I said, it's multiple pictures, but a single image vertical picture or portrait mode, the Mavic Air 2 does not do. Now, of course, you can just take a horizontal picture and crop it, but if you're looking at full detail and vertical, then unfortunately that is not possible. Another great point in the comments of a previous video, see, it's worth to get down there and get into the discussion with everybody, was the single IMU and compass in the Mavic Air 2. Now, if you don't know what an IMU is, it's the inertia measurement unit, and it's essentially the accelerometer and the gyro on a chip. Your phone also has that, by the way. It kind of measures which way the drone is facing and what kind of angle it's at, what kind of speed it's moving at. It's essentially just like a small ball bearing and a round sphere sensor, and depending on where this ball bearing is, that's where it knows how it's facing. That's how I imagine anyways. They could be using new technology that's cooler and way better than that. That's how I always picture it in my head. And so the Mavic 2 Pro, for example, has two of these on board. So in that case, there's a little bit of redundancy built in. If one IMU is sending, hey, this thing's upside down and it's moving towards Earth at a very fast speed, but the second one is reading normal, then it takes the values from IMU 1 and it discards them and it focuses on the second one. This kind of redundancy is not available on the Mavic Air 2, since we only have one IMU and one compass. The same thing with the compass. One compass could be giving the drone or the flight controller strange information. If that is the case, it looks at the second one. If the second one is reading okay, it discards the bad values. So that's kind of how you get redundancy on a drone or a quadcopter. With the Mavic Air 2, you've got one of each. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you fly in a very interference-rich environment, let's say your job is to take pictures or inspect cell phone towers, for example, and you wanted to use the Mavic Air 2 for that for some reason. Now, if you're into that kind of work, you probably have other drones, but let's just say theoretically, hypothetically, that's what you want to do. Those kinds of towers can emit lots of kind of interference and interfere with the signal coming from your remote controller to the Mavic Air 2. And it could, I guess, potentially send a signal to the drone, hey, you should go here to this coordinate or there, and the signal from your remote gets kind of overridden. This could cause the drone to fly away or do whatever. That is just a risk that you have with having single sensors. Now, for most of us in the real world, that should not be an issue. Most likely you will never have an issue with that. It's just one of those things that there's a slight risk that it could happen. And of course, this could also happen if you have 2 or 3 on board. If there's a bug in the software, if there's anything, you can't test these things in every possible combination of situations, and that's just the way it is. So if that kind of freaks you out and say, you know what, I want 2 of those, and that's the only thing you want 2 of, or if that's the only thing that you want to upgrade to, then by all means go with something like the Mavic 2 Pro or one of the bigger drones that has dual. But for most of us, this is not an issue. Oh, by the way, Ard, I haven't been able to get that haircut yet. I tried today, but the wait was way too long and I said, you know what, I just can't. But I'm on it, I promise. Another great question was, can you fly the Mavic Air 2 with just your cell phone? Some drones, like I believe it was it the Mavic Air 1 and the Spark, you could fly with just your cell phone. Of course, they used the Wi-Fi transmission signal, which your phone can also produce, and that's why that worked. The Mavic Air 2 uses OcuSync 2.0, so that is technically not even possible. So no, you cannot control the drone with just your phone. Somebody else asked if the Mavic Air 2 is compatible with the DJI Go app, or I assume they meant the DJI Go 4 app, which is the app that you use to fly the Mavic 2 Pro, or the Phantom 4 Pro, or Phantom 4, or various other drones, Inspire, etc. No, the Mavic Air 2 is only compatible with the DJI Fly app. I don't ever see DJI coming out with support for the DJI Go 4 app because they wouldn't have gone through all the effort to make the Air 2 work with the Fly app. The interesting thing to me will be if the Mavic 3, whenever that comes out in the future, if that's going to be Fly app or DJI Go 4 app. Because if one of their top tier drones is going to be compatible with the Fly app, then that's kind of the clear sign that, hey, we're phasing out the Go 4 app and using the Fly app. Now, they could be doing this for various reasons. A huge code refactor, which essentially means just going through the code and redoing it, making it more efficient, or some other reason which I don't know. So no, Fly app only for the Mavic Air 2. Another great question was, should I put my phone into airplane mode when flying the Mavic Air 2, or any other drone for that matter? And that's a great question. Now, fundamentally speaking, if you put your phone into airplane mode and you really do turn off the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth radios, then there is less risk of interference, since the OcuSync 2.0 transmission protocol does travel on 2.4 or 5.8 gigahertz spectrum, which is kind of the same spectrum that your phone transmits on. Now, I don't know how on those frequencies and what channels they communicate, if it's the same, if there's overlap. I think OcuSync 2.0 has some kind of an encryption on it, so it should be kind of a safe protocol. And I don't know if you can hear that ambulance. By that sound, you know that I am not in the US. We're actually filming just outside Munich in Bavaria, Germany. Fundamentally speaking, putting your phone into airplane mode is a good thing and is recommended in various documents and manuals that you find. Now, the only downside I see with that is, let's say you're at a new location and you don't have the map data downloaded. So in the flight, let's say you're having a really bad day and something happens with your drone and it goes down somewhere. Theoretically, the GPS data should still be okay. Just the map that you see there is not going to be downloaded. So it's just going to be, your home point is going to be a blue dot somewhere. And without the map data, you can't verify if the blue dot is really your location. Surely the location from your cell phone could be close to or on top of or below the blue dot of the drone. But having that map just gives you one more step of security to make sure that, hey, I know that this street is the closest one or whatever, and the blue dot of the drone is near there, so I know, okay, the location on the map is actually where I'm at, and actually where the home point should be. If you are in airplane mode, you don't get a chance to download the map, and there's this amount of uncertainty, and I'm not a fan of that. So personally, I have not put my phone into airplane mode except maybe a few times. And knock on wood, there's no wood around here, I haven't had any issues. But yeah, if you put it into airplane mode, let's say you download the map and then do it, put it into airplane mode, then you are kind of on the safe side of everything. Great question. Hey, real quick, if you haven't seen it yet, I have a Mavic Air 2 resource page where you can download full-size samples I took of the Mavic Air 2, mainly for my big review, if you haven't seen that yet, and also download a free LUT, a lookup table, which will help you get your D-Cinelike footage looking very nice and ready for final color corrections. This is kind of what footage looks like without a LUT shooting in D-Cinelike, and this is what it looks like with the LUT applied. And you can do some final corrections and you get an image that is like this. Why would you want to do that? It allows you to get more dynamic range out of this sensor. That and more is available if you just check out my Mavic Air 2 resource page, so feel free to do that at the end of the video. You can always check out the link in the description below. Also, if you want to learn how to become a better drone pilot, you can learn from my experience of hundreds, if not thousands, of drone flights all over the world. I'm working on some great educational content for you guys. So if you want to keep up to date on that, then that is also available if you go to the resource page. Hey, I want to say thanks for checking out this video. If you have further questions about the Mavic Air 2, please do let me know in the comments below. And also, if you want to see me compare it to other drones, let me know which one, and why that is interesting to you, and I'll check those out. Let's get a good conversation going on there, and I can't wait to chat with you guys there. I try to respond to every comment, so that's kind of cool. And in the meantime, check out some of this other great content on the channel. This one's pretty good, but I recommend this one this time. Thanks, guys.